Welcome back to Caring Beyond the Pew, where we explore how the church can support individuals and families facing end-of-life realities. I'm Sonja Koenig, and today we're focusing on developing a practical end-of-life ministry plan. Today we will get into 3 actionable steps to help churches create a sustainable, well-organized ministry. We will cover 1, setting clear goals and defining the scopes of the ministry. 2, building specialized teams for hospital visits, grief support, and legacy planning. And 3, integrating the initiative in existing church ministries. If you've been wondering how to turn a vision into a well-functioning ministry, this episode is for you. Later, we will talk about how you can incorporate this to a business ministry. So our first segment, setting clear goals and defining the scope of ministry. Many churches have the heart to serve those at the end of life, but without a plan, efforts can't feel sacred. The first step is to set clear goals and define the scope of your ministry. Let's ask ourselves some key questions. What specific needs are present in our congregation? What resources, both financial and volunteer, can we dedicate? And how do we define success for this ministry? One way to frame this is to divide the ministry into 3 key areas: direct care for the dying, support for caregivers and families, and grief and bereavement services. Each of these categories, they require different approaches. So defining which area your church will focus on is crucial. For example, a church might begin by offering hospital visitations, then later expand to include grief support groups. Another church might prioritize legacy planning, helping members create wills, ethical wills, or funeral plans. Segment number 2, creating teams for hospital visits, grief support, and legacy planning. Once the ministry's focus is clear, the next step is to organize teams. A successful end-of-life ministry, it's not run by 1 or 2 leaders. It thrives through teams with designated roles. Let's break it down. Your hospital visitation and home support team. These are trained volunteers or pastoral staff that visit hospitalized or homebound individuals. They offer prayer, encouragement, and companionship. They coordinate with hospice or palliative care providers for spiritual support. Then you have your grief and your bereavement support team. This team provides one-on-one and group counseling for grieving families. It facilitates monthly grief support groups or hosts memorial services, organizes meal trains or check-ins for widows, widowers, and grieving families. And then you have your legacy and ethical will planning team. This helps the congregation document their life stories, values, and final wishes. It guides members into ethical will writing, sharing faith, lessons, and blessings. It provides estate planning and workshops in collaboration with legal and financial experts. The key here is delegation. No single pastor or volunteer can do it all. By forming specialized teams, the ministry can offer consistent, meaningful support. An example of this would be some churches have trained deacons or Stephen ministers. They lead these teams, while others collaborate with local hospice chaplains or grief counselors to provide training. So now let's concentrate and look at segment number 3, integrating the initiative into existing church ministries. Now that we have established teams, how do we make this ministry an integral part of the church rather than an afterthought? The answer, it's integration. Let's look at 3 ways to seamlessly integrate end-of-life care into existing ministries. Number 1, partnering with small groups and Bible studies. Encourage small groups to adopt a family facing end-of-life care. Bible studies can incorporate grief and legacy topics using scriptures as a foundation. Number 2, training church leaders and volunteers. Pastors, deacons, and ministry leaders, they should receive basic training on how to offer spiritual and emotional support. Provide a quarterly workshop on topics like grief, funeral planning, and ethical wills. And number 3, embedding end-of-life ministry in Sunday services and outreach sermon series on biblical perspectives of life, death, and eternity, including testimonies from caregivers or families who have benefited from this ministry. Hosting an annual Remembrance Sunday to honor deceased loved ones. Example, one church set up an end-of-life resource table in the foyer with brochures, volunteer sign-ups, and recommend readings. Another incorporated a Legacy Sunday where older members shared their life lessons. The goal is to normalize conversations about death, reduce fear, and make planning accessible to everyone. So today, we laid the groundwork for a structured, sustainable end-of-life ministry by setting clear goals, forming specialized teams, and integrating this ministry into the life of the church. We can provide deep, compassionate support to our members in their final season of life. So here's a quick recap. Sorry about that. So here's a quick recap. Define the scope of your ministry. Create teams for hospital visits, grief support, and legacy planning. Ensure integration into small groups, leadership training, and outreach. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with your church leaders and congregation. Visit endoflifecareinitiative.org for additional resources and templates to get started on your ministry plan. Once again, I'm Sonja Koenig, and this has been Caring Beyond the Pew. See you next time. And remember to share, because sharing is caring.